Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Renton Reflects. Today, I'm going to talk about what's often considered as the most notorious film ever made by the Walt Disney Studios, Song of the South. Based on the Joel Chandler Harris books featuring the stories of Uncle Remus, this live-action animated hybrid film has been a subject of controversy, supposedly due to racial insensitivities. So much so that this movie has never seen a home video or DVD release in America to this day. So, is it really as racist as people have made it out to be? Well, let's take a more honest approach with it. The story takes place on a southern plantation in Georgia after the American Civil War, not before or during. It does feature some African American workers on the plantation, but the thing is, they're sharecroppers, not slaves. Just wanted to make that perfectly clear. A small white boy named Johnny goes to stay with his grandmother, who happens to be the owner of the plantation. Johnny is having a little bit of trouble adjusting to life on the plantation until he meets a kind African American man named Uncle Remus, who tells him stories about Brer Rabbit and the mishaps that he gets into with Brer Fox and Brer Bear. Johnny is able to use these stories as life lessons, so that not only could he gain a better perspective on life, but also develop more meaningful relationships with other people on the plantation. So now let's talk about the positives and the negatives that are featured in this film. First, the negatives. One of the biggest problems this movie has is that there's no subtitle or any clear indication when the story takes place. This has most likely raised the confusion that the sharecroppers could be mistaken for slaves, and that the movie glorifies slavery, when in fact, the movie has nothing to do with slavery. The workers merely display genuine respect to their benevolent owner, and the owner pretty much treats everyone as equals. There's even evidence that the workers have the free will to leave the plantation if they wanted to. It's possible that Walt Disney himself assumed that audiences would already know about the Joel Chandler Harris books, which were published and set long after the Civil War, and felt that there was no need to establish a specific year in the movie's setting. Yet most people today don't really know about the books, unless they do the research on them first. Another problem this movie has is that it does contain elements that could be seen as a little questionable on whether or not they're really racist, like the use of the old Southern dialect on the African American characters and the use of what's known as the tar baby. For those of you that don't know, in one of Uncle Remus's stories, Brer Fox creates a dummy out of tar as a way to trick Brer Rabbit into having a fight with it so that he'd end up getting stuck in it. When I was a kid, I had a Disney storybook on cassette tape that featured that particular story. I had no idea that at the time, the concept of the tar baby could be viewed as racist. I merely thought it was just a harmless thing. If I had seen this movie as a kid, I probably would not have been able to easily pick up on any racial undertones that lie within it. The same may be true for most kids today. As an adult, I do see now how those elements I had mentioned earlier could make some people a little uncomfortable, though they don't seem to bother me that much. Now onto the positives. The animation is very vibrant and colorful, and the way it works alongside the live-action characters and backgrounds is practically seamless. It also contains a few catchy songs, especially the Oscar-winning Zippity-Doo-Dah. And let's not forget the humble and charismatic performance from James Baskett as Uncle Remus. As a matter of fact, he won a special honorary Oscar for it. So with all of this in mind, how does the movie hold up? Well, personally, I would say it's kind of good, if not great. While I'm not too enthusiastic about the narrative aspects of the live-action portions, the film does contain some artistic merit that ought to be appreciated a lot more, as well as containing certain values, like the idea that it takes brains over brawn to get out of certain situations, that everyone has their own laughing place, and that it attempts to bring harmony between different races. And to be honest, I don't see anything that horribly offensive in it. It's not like it goes so far as to have any characters appear in blackface or do anything that's truly demeaning and racist. It just seems like the kind of movie that could be misinterpreted so easily without actually taking a closer look at it. That's why I feel that it ought to be viewed from a historical perspective, rather than as something that could be easily taken the wrong way with what it does actually present. It may contain elements that could be seen as a little taboo and stereotypical, but they're mostly rather minor. And it doesn't mean that the movie has to be completely shunned away from societal consciousness because of it. What people today need to understand is that this movie was a product of its time, and not something that serves as a reflection of the African American race in general. I can understand if Disney doesn't want to take the chance of releasing the film onto DVD in America so as not to get involved in any public relations problems. But if they ever do decide to officially release the film onto DVD in America, they should at least have a disclaimer explaining that the movie does not represent today's society, and that any prejudices expressed in the film were wrong then and are still wrong today. Whatever your perspective on the film is, I feel that it at least has some significance and deserves a second chance. So I say you should do your research on the film before you check it out. That way, you can draw your own conclusion more properly. If I were to rate this film on a scale between 1 and 10, I would give it a 7. It might not rank among the absolute greatest to come from Disney, but it's mostly harmless, and not as racist as some people have made it out to be. It's more misunderstood. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has been my review. Thanks for watching, and have a zippity-doo-dah day!